In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the updated title, the Boyd SMG. Now, it comes back every single year, but this year it is special because of all the new Boyd perks that we got, and they're released essentially at the perfect time to actually get some of those brand new Boyd perks. So it's actually the only SMG in the game right now that can actually get things like Demoralize. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at all the perks that this weapon can get. What are some of the unique ones, what are some of the best ones, and the ones that you should be looking for if you're looking for a god rule on this weapon. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you do, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel in case you guys haven't already. And without further ado, let's get into it. And the very first thing we gotta talk about is how to actually get this weapon. Even though I think it's a little late for this one, I'm sure all of you guys already know by this point. But you get this from dunking medals, or from also completing any other Guardian Games activities. Whether it's Supremacy or the new Boss Rush mode, you have a chance to actually get some of these weapons. Now this weapon is an aggressive frame SMG, meaning that it's 720, and I feel like this type of SMG is pretty good for both PvP and PvE currently. I think it can actually perform pretty well in both of them. And it comes with two different origin traits, Hockey Breach armaments as well as Classic Contender. I think out of the two, Classic Contender is much better. Every time that you get some final blows, it gives you some class ability energy. It's simple, but it's very effective. You can always use some more ability energy. Well, Hockey Breach armaments are definitely a lot more niche, and I don't really think that you'll get the most out of this weapon. I think that works probably the best on like specials. So I just recommend that you stick to Classic Contender. It's gonna work pretty much in anything that you do. And now let's move on, and let's actually take a look at the things that matter the most for this weapon, and those are gonna be the perks. Now we're not gonna be taking a look at every single perk, but we're essentially gonna be taking a look at the best ones for PvP and also PvE. But I would definitely say that this weapon leans heavily towards PvE. There's not really that many good PvP perks, but I will mention them when they come up. And at the end, we'll also have some god suggestions, so if that's what you're looking for, we'll also have those at the end. So let's not waste any time, let's get into it, and let's start with the very first stray perk. Now these are the options we have for the very first stray perk. We have Repulsor Brace, Recycle Energy, Threat Detector, Perpetual Motion, To the Pain, Grave Robber, and lastly Closing Time. And we're going to be starting with PvE, since like I said, this is mostly a PvE weapon. And for PvE, you have a couple of choices. But I think the best ones are going to be Repulsor Brace, Recycle Energy, and Threat Detector. Now, the first one, and the one that you're most likely going to go for, is going to be Repulsor Brace. Whenever you defeat a Boyd debuff target, you get an Overshield. The Overshields are fantastic in PvE. And with all the Boyd debuffs that you can actually apply with this weapon, as well as everything that's going around this season, this is just like the perfect perk to pretty much always have an Overshield. The Overshield gives you damage resistance as well as some extra health, so it's just fantastic in pretty much any activity that you do. Now another really good one is gonna be Threat Detector. This is gonna give you stability, handling, and reload speed whenever you're close to targets. And since this is an SMG, and we're always fairly close to targets, this is always gonna be on, giving you that extra reload speed, and it's gonna make this weapon feel really good. Now the reload speed on this weapon at base is not the greatest, so you definitely have to pair this up with either a loader or just something that increases reload speed, and Threat Detector can be great for that. And lastly, Recycle Energy will give your lowest charged ability some energy every time you reload after getting a kill. Essentially like Kill Clip, but instead of giving you extra damage, it gives you ability energy for whatever you're missing. Now this perk I think has some really high potential. Unfortunately right now it's just not quite there though, because it doesn't give you like enough energy to really justify it. But I think in the future, this perk is going to be really good. And for the Crucible, I think Threat Detector is going to be pretty good. You're always going to be a little bit close to the enemies, so you're always going to be able to take advantage of that extra handling and stability. And like I said, the reload speed, it is also very nice in this weapon, because the reload speed at base is just pretty bad. Now another really good one though, is going to be Perpetual Motion. This again is going to give you some bonus stability, handling, and reload speed. But in the Crucible, since you're always moving around, this is usually pretty easy to keep up. So I actually kind of prefer Perpetual Motion in weapons like this, because it's just so easy to keep up, and the extra stats that you get from it are fantastic. But I think those two are going to be the best perks that you can actually get for the Crucible, and everything else is just not going to be as good. Now moving on to the second perk, these are the options that we have. We have Destabilizing Rounds, Demoralize, Swashbuckler, Surrounded, Elemental Honing, Rangefinder, and lastly Under Pressure. And I feel like this perk definitely has some better choices than we had on the first one, but once again, let's start with some PvE. And the first one is going to be Destabilizing Rounds. And these stabilizing rounds are just amazing now. Not only do they spread volatile, but they also give you those volatile rounds, meaning that you can pretty much have 100% uptime on volatile rounds, as long as there's some enemies around. So if you're looking just for an easy way to get some volatile on this weapon, then this is gonna be your perfect choice. Now I know that this episode getting volatile is pretty easy, but after this episode, I think these stabilizing rounds are again gonna be like really amazing for just having a consistent way of getting them. So these stabilizing rounds are still gonna be fantastic, and they're gonna give you some pretty good ad clear. We also have one of the new void perks, Demoralize, meaning that every time they get a precision final blow, it causes nearby targets to become weakened. And this is gonna be fantastic whether you're dealing with ads, whether you're dealing with some bigger enemies. Just being able to put weaken on a bunch of enemies is gonna be pretty useful. And the last perk that I want to talk about for PvE is gonna be Surrounded. Now, because this is an SMG and we're always gonna be fairly close to the enemies, that means Surrounded is gonna be able to be procced a lot more often than on some other weapons. Meaning that we're always gonna be taking advantage of that 40% damage boost, and that is gonna be fantastic since this weapon does tend to struggle with some of those bigger enemies. It's great at killing ads, but it doesn't usually have enough firepower in one magazine to kill some of those bigger ones. So by getting this 40% damage boost, it just makes dealing with those guys so much easier. On the season specifically that you already have a way of getting these stabilizing rounds very easily, it is just a fantastic perk because you get the extra ad clear from the stabilize while at the same time getting the extra damage from Surrounded. So this one's gonna be pretty fantastic as well. Maybe not as good as the Void specific perks, but overall it's just gonna be a really good one as well. Now when it comes to Crucible for this weapon, we don't really have really good choices when it comes to this weapon. This is really not a Crucible weapon. It is definitely more of a PvE weapon. But the best ones would probably be Swashbuckler. So every time that you get a kill, you get some increased damage. And if you get a melee kill, you get a big bump to damage. Usually if you get a kill with this weapon, it'll just be enough to make the follow-up kill a little bit easier to get. It just changes the optimal TTK, but not actually drop the TTK. But if you do get a melee kill, it does drop your TTK down to like a 0.58, which is actually pretty impressive. So Swashbuckler is something you can run, or you could also go for Rangefinder, even a bit more range, or under pressure if you're looking for more stability and accuracy. But to be completely honest, both of these options are also not great. This weapon is just not really the greatest for Crucible. It's definitely a PvE weapon. But those are gonna be the best perks I think that you can go for on this weapon. And now let's move on and let's actually talk about some god rolls. Now the very first god roll that we're gonna talk about is gonna be the classic, the Repulsor Brace plus the Stabilizing Rounds combo. And what I really like about this one is that you can pretty much run this on anything. It doesn't really matter what class you're running this on. You're constantly gonna be able to get those volatile rounds, and you're constantly gonna be able to proc the Repulsor Brace. So this is pretty much an all-in-one weapon just by itself. It doesn't really matter what you're on. This is always gonna work pretty well with each other, and you're always constantly gonna get the ad clear plus the overshields. After this episode, I think this role is gonna get even more popular, and I think you should definitely save one of these. Now, if you already have another way of getting volatile rounds, I think the best perk combination you can actually go for will be Repulsor Brace plus Demoralize, because you pretty much get everything. You get the weaken, you get the overshield, while at the same time it's still keeping the ad clear from the volatile rounds. This is just gonna be like the best perk setup you can actually get on Void, and it's gonna be fantastic. And the last PvE role is kind of similar, is Repulsor Brace plus Surrounded. Again for this you're gonna need another way of getting these stabilizing rounds, so you can still just constantly proc Repulsor Brace, but instead of getting the weaken, we instead just get a flat 40% damage boost, so we're gonna be doing more damage against everything. I really like this one, especially because it doesn't require a kill or anything like that. As long as we're surrounded by enemies, we get that 40% damage buff, or 45 if this perk is actually enhanced, and we're just going to be able to kill some of those bigger targets a little bit easier. Like I said before, that's really what this weapon struggles with some of those majors, so having that 40% or 45% damage buff definitely makes dealing with them a lot easier. And for the Crucible, Perpetual Motion plus Swashbuckler I think is going to be your best bet. You get the extra stability, the handling, the reload, while at the same time getting a bit of forgiveness after you get a kill. Or you could also go for Perpetual Motion plus Under Pressure. You want to just get a bunch of stability and accuracy on your weapon. Like I said, this is not really a PvP weapon, but there is some certain roles that you can definitely take in there and still have a pretty okay time. I don't think this thing is going to be meta anytime soon, but you can definitely make it work. But those are gonna be the roles that I think that you guys should be going for on this weapon if you're looking for some god rolls. But let me know in the comments below what is the god roll you're gonna be going for, or maybe some of the roles that you got in recently, or you wanna just tell me about what you guys actually think about this weapon. Let me know in the comments below. And now let me tell you a little bit of what I think about this weapon, at least this year, especially since we've seen it so many times. I'm actually trying to think of how many times we actually seen this weapon, and I think this is like one of the very first ones we got for Guardian games. But, you know, even though that's the case, I actually think this is probably like the best version of the weapon, and the thing it came out at the perfect time to actually get some of these new void perks, mostly just Demoralize. Demoralize is pretty much just gonna end up making this thing into the ultimate void SMG. Like I said, whenever you get Demoralize, and you have a way of making volatile, plus you get the constant overshields, it's pretty much everything that you would want on the void class. So if you're looking for a good void SMG for your builds, then this is pretty much gonna be your best choice, at least for now. That pretty much takes care of everything that you would want on the void class. Weekends, survivability, while at the same time giving you some ad clear. This thing is fantastic, and I'm surprised that not a lot of people are talking about it. Probably because, you know, we've seen it so much that at this point people are not really excited about the SMG. But I definitely think that you should definitely look for a good one. Or even if you're not trying to look for a good one, if you happen to get a good roll to drop, definitely put it in the vault because you'll like it next time that you try a void build. But with that, we're gonna end today's video. Like always, I wanna hear your opinions on the SMG, the things you like about it, the things you hate about it. Let me know all that in the comments below. I am still recovering. I thought I was completely over it, but nope, I'm still there. So maybe that stream won't happen before the reset. But regardless, thank you all for watching today. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.